Thank you for joining on this episode with Dr. Soyla Quesada on Two Kids, One Doctorate, a podcast where I share my stories in hopes that they will help you either grow or reflect. On this episode, I share some learned experiences from being a critic myself and my own self-awareness. Critic, both your inner critic and your outer critic, and how those two are connected, and why you may criticize others. You might be criticizing others because you are criticizing yourself in the same ways that you're criticizing other people. I have to say that I have been a critic. I have been critical of people. I have been critical of people's lives. I have been critical of people's choices. I have been critical of just about anything you think of. I've been critical of. And it's a work in progress. I don't criticize people anymore. Now I accept folks making choices in their lives because that's their life and that's what they get to do. And you know why I do that now? Because I expect the same of other people towards me. I expect other people to also accept what I'm doing, support me in what I'm doing, and not be critical of what I'm doing unless you've got something positive to share, perhaps is a positive reinforcement, or you are going to give me some advice on how perhaps I need to be doing something better. But don't come criticizing and being negative about things that I'm doing. Don't come being negative or criticize things about my life or the choices I'm making. And so when I started to think about talking to you all today, I thought about how I was reflecting my own critic onto other people. I was criticizing other people because I was criticizing myself. Not only was I criticizing myself, I was putting other people against my self-criticism. So whatever I was criticizing about myself, I was putting that outward towards other people. And let me tell you some things that I learned since becoming aware, and since being reflective of my actions and the words that come out of my mouth. One is that the words that come out of your mouth, whether you're comfortable saying them as they come to your mind, because perhaps that's the way you grew up, that's part of your culture, bluntness and being blunt and being real. Well, I called bluntness, but now I call just being rude and critical. Was kind of celebrated, right? It was something that you wanted to do. It was something that people kind of like felt proud of doing. Well, look at me, I'm telling you the truth. Nobody else is. But there's a difference between telling people the truth and being critical and criticizing their life, their way of life, and their way of thinking. The words that come out of your mouth are very powerful. What you're saying means something to someone else. Remember that. The other thing is, whatever you're thinking about someone else is because you've thought about it about yourself already. If not, you're already thinking it or you're believing it. And then you put people on a pedestal and they have to kind of like surpass that criticism. And if they don't, you become mean. You're like side-eyeing them. You're talking about them. You're gossiping, which is never helpful. Being critical was not helping me and it was not helping them. It was filling a void. It was filling a gap. It was me talking to me, but putting other people's names and faces to it. Being the critic that everyone goes to hear the criticism you have about other people isn't cute. Become aware of how you're saying it, why you're saying it, who you're saying it about. Where is that coming from? There are things you need to start working on internally. Be comfortable with you. Be comfortable with all that stuff that you need to work through. Work through it. And you'll see how much easier it will be for you to stop being the critic of the family, being critical about other people. What I also learned throughout this awareness period is that people were critical about me. People were critical about the things I did. People were critical about who I dated, what I did with my life, what I did with my free time. And guess what? I had nowhere to put out all that energy. And so what I did was I internalized it. And then I found where to get that out towards. And it was always towards a person. It was always criticizing someone else's way of life. It was always criticizing their world. It's feeling this nasty void you have of needing to criticize others because that's the way people do want to, or doing it because you have that internalized all that criticism, and now your own internal critic needs to put that somewhere because you're criticizing yourself while also criticizing other people. So my advice to you is become aware of where it's coming from, why it's happening, who are you doing it to, what's the pattern. Figure that out first, and then begin to work on yourself. And this will become an easy change for you. It's not that difficult, but the work has to be internal. It has to be within you first. Because there's a difference between being critical and being helpful. If you're being helpful, you're using kind words, you're helping someone that perhaps asks you for your advice. You're being critical, you're just criticizing for the heck of it. You're in this little circle, just criticizing just to criticize, gossiping just to gossip, to make yourself feel better. It has nothing to do with the other person, and so much to do with you. Begin that inner work, and I promise you, you'll be in a very different place in a day, in a week, in a month from now. And it will require some work. My hopes for you is that you can begin that work as soon as you can, so that your life can begin to change and the life of those around you. Hope this was helpful. Don't forget, check out all our previous episodes and stay tuned for future episodes. This is your host, Dr. Soyla Quesada, and this podcast is titled 2 Kids, 1 Doctorate, where I share my stories in hopes that it will inspire you, it will help you to grow, or it will help you to reflect. Take care.